It's like listening to nails on a chalkboard, listening to you.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is being condemned for something that I really don't think is that big of a deal. Now, Doug Ford is someone that I have many criticisms of. If you search on my channel for Doug Ford's name, I don't think you'll see one video where there is a positive thing to say about him, because all my coverage of him has been policy-based. He is not a good premier. But this attack over language only hurts people like me, our ability to try and communicate to people about why Doug Ford is not a good premier. It muddies the waters. So let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to play this clip and see if you can spot what the issue with this is.
Rather than sending inaccurate information out to the public and hurting the public, why don't you come and join us to support the people of Ontario for once, rather than just sit there and criticize and criticize. You know, it's like listening to nails on a chalkboard, listening to you.
So, apparently, nails on a chalkboard is a sexist remark. This is something I just discovered today, as I have never in my life thought of that comment as being misogynistic or sexist. And in fact, I did a search of that remark and the word sexism before today to see if anything came up. And I'll show you what came up in a bit. But this was a response to NDP leader Andrea Horwath, who was correctly criticizing Doug Ford on his response to the pandemic. Horwath had been talking about the easing of COVID-19 restrictions, which she said the premier is determined to rush into. She noted that the Associate Chief Medical Officer of Health said Tuesday there is no criteria for when Ontario will use the emergency brake, a key part of its reopening plan that would immediately put regions back into lockdown. Quote, when will the premier actually start listening to the hospitals, to the doctors, to his own experts, and prevent this province from going into yet another third wave and lockdown, she had asked. Perfectly legitimate criticisms here. Yet, this is not the headline. The headline isn't about what Doug Ford is planning to do, isn't about what Andrea Horwath is saying here. No, the headline instead, Doug Ford called sexist after dismissing criticism as nails on a chalkboard. As you're going to see, this is largely a media creation, as Andrea Horwath's comments directly following this moment were perfectly fine.
About the premier's nails on the chalkboard comment there in question period. I mean, is that appropriate language to be using in the legislature?
Well, you know, it's really not about me personally. It's about, you know, the fight that I have and that I bring here to Queen's Park on behalf of everyday families. The criticism as well as the proposals that we're bringing forward. At the end of the day, when the premier doesn't like being questioned, doesn't like being criticized, he goes to the worst possible place. That's just who he is. But who I am is somebody who's going to come here every day and fight for the people of Ontario, regardless of the kind of mud that the premier is going to sling.
Does he owe you an apology?
I think he owes the people of Ontario an apology. I mean, this kind of behavior from a premier is wholly inappropriate, and and it's unfortunate that he doesn't see it that way.
These comments are fine. Andrea Horwath, she directs it towards people in general and how she's standing up for people. That's her comments here are fine. It's the comments from everybody else that has turned this into something that it is not. And this, again, is why it's important. Because apolitical people, this is the kind of stuff that they latch onto. Just the cultural language, what's happening generally, what the media talks about, what they blow up. So when the media blows this up as an issue, it doesn't hurt Doug Ford. It hurts people criticizing him over these benign comments. So while Andrea Horwath, didn't seem all that fazed by it, you have the Liberal leader here tweeting about how it's a misogynist rhetoric. You have Mike Schreiner here, the Green leader, saying how it's a misogynist attack. Toronto Star smacks of misogyny. Global News, Doug Ford accused of directing misogynistic remark. CP24, hurling misogynistic attack. Yahoo News, misogynistic for a comment he flung at NDP leader. I mean, this is completely ridiculous. This is blown way out of proportion. Look at how the media latches on to a benign line like this meanwhile ignoring the actual impacts of what Doug Ford has done through policy. Now, I did a little search. I searched online for nails on a chalkboard and sexism before today to see if anything popped up, if this was a common, a known thing that people associate the comment nails on a chalkboard with being misogynistic or sexist. I found nothing. Now, maybe if you do a deeper search, you'll find something, but this is what I found. This is an article from 2013 in Maclean's. Quote, "In our society, the sound of men complaining is like nails on a chalkboard," he says. So here it is being used to describe men talking. This from wikia.org. "Reading a document where every pronoun is male can be like nails on a chalkboard to female readers." Again, nails on a chalkboard being used to describe men, not women. This from Psychology Today. "As a scientist and a woman, every time I hear this kind of claim, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard." Again, this is not gendered language. I am shocked that the media was really able to turn this into something that it wasn't. And really, maybe it's because of the reaction in the room. You heard when Doug Ford said that, there was like a bit of an uproar, but that happens often with these sorts of comments. You could say it was, I guess, an attack and not him actually being able to defend his actions. That is completely fair. But to then turn it into sexism is absolutely ridiculous. And again, hurts my ability to communicate why Doug Ford is a horrible leader, because it muddies the waters. Now, speaking of horrible leader, this is why Doug Ford is a horrible leader. Doug Ford, in the middle of a deadly pandemic, calls paid sick days a waste of taxpayer money. This is a problem. And by the way, this disproportionately impacts women. What's more, the uneven access to paid sick leave isn't randomly distributed. Workers in precarious employment arrangements, those who are low income, part-time, or who work on call, are the least likely to have paid sick days. This includes workers who provide the essential services that have kept BC, this is an article about BC, but also applies to Ontario, running while others work from home. Caregivers, cashiers, and cleaning and sanitation workers. The majority of workers in these sectors are women, and many racialized women, such as Black women in caregiving work and Filipina migrant workers in essential sectors, are facing unique challenges. And this, from paidsickdays.org, the failure to allow workers to earn paid sick days is especially harmful to mothers who often face an impossible choice between losing a paycheck or even a job and staying home to care for an ill child. The result is that working parents without paid sick days are nearly twice as likely as those with paid sick days to send a sick child to school or daycare. Children whose mothers lack paid sick days are also less likely to receive routine well child checkups, dental care, and flu shots. So this is actual sexist, misogynistic policy. Yet the focus from the media always is on language, trying to police language as opposed to actually looking at policy and how that directly impacts people's lives. Also, one more thing here regarding Doug Ford. Minimum wage. Doug Ford stopped the increase of the minimum wage, and guess what? That also impacts women disproportionately. Women make up the majority of minimum wage earners in this country, and according to Stats Canada data, more than 60% of women who make minimum wage are either single parents or the sole earners in a couple. Again, I care about the policy. I care about what actually impacts people's lives on a daily basis, their material conditions. Now, if Doug Ford actually had a real sexist attack, yes, of course, that would be a problem. But to gender a benign turn of phrase that, from my search, has never been used before or never viewed before as being sexist is just absolutely ridiculous and hurts our ability to actually communicate why Doug Ford is a problem.